So we're going to continue with question 11, and we're considering history size. So how many commands does Linux remember? How far back does your history go? So there's an environment variable for that, and the environment variable is history size, not too surprisingly. And for Linux to know that that is a environment variable, we need to precede it with a $sign. So let's go ahead and echo that information out. Okay, so echo out your history size, and we see it is 1000. So we've seen two environment variables so far, the path variable and the history size variable. And if you want to see the full list, just type ENV, short for environment variable, and press enter. And you can see other pieces of information that change, like the login name, for example. If I log off and log on as Bob, then the logon name is going to be Bob. If I change my directory, the PWD is going to change. So these are bits of information that are constantly changing, and Linux keeps track of them with environment variables, and we're going to create our own variables as well. In question 12, ls echo, or sorry, not is echo internal or external? Well, if you want to know the type of command you're working with, okay, use type. Now we have different types of commands. I'm only going to mention two types. We have commands that are loaded into the computer memory, into the RAM, when you start a bash shell. Okay, we refer to those as shell commands. Sometimes we call them internal commands. And then we have other commands that are not in the memory. They're external to memory, and they need their own file. Okay, so we call those the external commands. So is echo internal or external? Well, all we have to do is use the type command and the name of the command that we're trying to determine. And we see it is built into the shell. It's loaded into memory. It's internal to memory. So sometimes we'll call echo an internal command. And there are a lot of these things. If I do type of the cd command or type of ls, we'll see many of them are in fact internal shell commands. Here's another one, ls. Okay, well, ls is actually an alias that points to another command, and we're going to look at aliases very soon, but let me show you an example of an external command, fdisk. Fdisk is located right here, and therefore it's not currently sitting in the memory. If I was to go to that location, delete that file, and then try to run fdisk, it would not work. In question 13, we want to execute 3 commands in a row. We want to clear the screen, we want to display the date, and we want to do an ls. So clear, date, and ls. Well, let's write out the commands first. Let me clear, and then ls, and then date. And we need those 3 commands to execute one after the other. How do we do that? We do that with a semicolon. Okay, so we put a semicolon after the first command and a semicolon after the second command. And we call that a chain. We're chaining a bunch of commands together. It's like very simple or basic programming. So clear, ls, and date. The screen got cleared. Up here is your ls, and right there is your date. Now, we want to, in question 13 or in question 14, we want to do the same thing again, but we want to create our own command, and we want to call it C for clear, D for date, and ls for lists. So we want to execute those 3 things, clear, ls, and date, but we want to create our own command here. So let's write out the name, cld equals, and just take the command that you did previously and put it in quotation marks. And this is called an alias. Okay, and we have to precede it with the alias command, alias, and that will create an alias for us, CLD. So let's press enter. Okay, and now we have an alias. Let's just type alias by itself to see that it's on the list, and we look, and there it is on the list of custom-made commands. Let's try it out now. We'll type CLD. It clears the screen, it puts your directories, and it puts today's date right there. We'll go on to question number 15. So write a command that will list all files and directories that begin with the letter D. Well, we can see here we have a couple of things that begin with D, and they're all capital D. So to make this a little bit more interesting, let me create a new file that begins with the letter D. So I'll call it D file. Okay, and when we type ls, now we have items that start with capital D and items that start with small d. Now, the way to list any file is just simply do ls, okay, and then do the letter that you want, and anything that comes after it, we use a star. So what this means is go ahead and list everything that starts with D and has anything after it. And when we press enter, we're going to get a surprising answer. We're not going to get exactly what we were expecting. We were expecting desktop, download, picture, and documents, and so on. Let's see what answer we get. Okay, we can see here we got desktop, okay, with a little colon after it that tells us that it's a directory, and documents with a colon because it's a directory. But look at this. It's also giving us the sub-content of documents, and that's not what we wanted. We just wanted to list everything that started with D there. So here's the trick. Let me do a clear. Okay, let's look at the previous command we just did. Now, if we want to suppress that, we don't want to see the subdirectories of documents, we put a -D in front. Okay, we press enter, and voila. So we see desktop, documents, and downloads, but we have a problem. Remember this guy? This file over here that starts with D, it has a small d, and that's not listed in there. So here's the trick. Watch what I do. I'm going to do the previous command, okay, but this time I'm going to use square brackets. Now, what does square brackets mean? It means anything that appears in there, any one character that appears in there. So right now we only have one letter, the letter D. So this will work just like the command before. We get documents, desktops, downloads, but we could put small d in there as well. So it's going to search for either one, either big D or small d. So let's press enter, and there you go. Now you have everything listed for you that begins with the letter D. And then in question 16, we continue, but this time we want to also include the letter P. So we update our command, and we do the same thing with P as well. Big P and little p, and we press enter. And now we also have pictures in there as well. Okay, so let's go on to the next question, which is question 17. And write a command that will list all files that begin with any upper case letters. And we just took a look at that, files that begin with any uppercase letters. And then question 18, display any greeting to the bash shell. So let's go ahead and do a clear. And I want to put the following message on the screen. Hello, class. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo that to the screen. I press enter, and there it is. Sorry, with question 17, I misread it. Okay, so let's continue here. We want to write a command, okay, that will list all files that begin with any uppercase letters. So let's try that again. Okay, so we know we need the ls command, and we know it's beginning with a letter. Okay, so we'll do our square brackets. Square brackets means one letter, any one letter that you put inside those square brackets, and anything after it. Okay, so what letters do we want? Well, we want all the letters, all the uppercase letters. So A, B, C, D, E. Well, this is a bit tiring. So as you could probably guess, you can specify a range from the letters A to Z. Okay, so any file that begins with one letter in this range. Oops, let me do that again. That is in that range, the first letter, capital A through capital Z, okay, will appear. So we press enter, and we get a lot more there than we wanted. We got the subdirectories as well, the contents of the subdirectories. So let's execute that command again. And to suppress seeing what's in the subdirectories, what we need to do right now is put a -D in front. So do not look inside the subdirectories. We press enter, and now we see everything that begins with a capital letter, regardless of what it is. Let's go ahead and run the same command again. And this time, instead of using capital letters, I'm going to use small letters. So let's do small letter A through Z. And if you recall, we did have one file there that began with small letter D. So let's press enter. And actually we had two files, D file and new file. And if you guessed that this works with numbers as well, it does. I could do a range of numbers. Let's say the numbers 1 through 5. I press enter. We don't see anything because there are no files. So let's go ahead and create two new files. Touch 3 file. There's one file. Touch 7 file. Now we have two files that begin with numbers. Let's do an ls. So you see the 3 file and you see the 7 file. Okay, so let's clear the screen. Let's use the up arrows to scroll through our previous commands. And there it is. So list all files, okay, where the first character is a number between 1 and 5. So we'll see one of those files, but not the other one because the other one is bigger than 5. We press enter and we see the 3 file there.